And thank you for asking us to talk about it. I had a lot of fun putting together the presentation for this. And while I'm bringing that up, I was just lamenting in my mind that Dave Bydlowski's not here because I don't know what day today is. So maybe, maybe today's Dave Bydlowski day, then, because he's not here. Hopefully he watches this recording. Okay, so this the NASA slash Globe Virtual Kids Club is what I will give it the official title because it is our collaboration between our GME UT group, NASA Langley, and then we also had Evangeline Harris heavily involved. This came about as a result, I think it was during COVID. I think Dr. C is when we started this. It's a different model, right? To
About
work,
right.
right. So for our team to work directly with third through fifth graders in a virtual environment as a virtual after school program, basically. And what we've done is 6 weeks each spring in April and May. We meet with the kids once a week for half an hour. It's very quick and I will show you. So, of course, it takes a team, right? I'm usually the one kind of prepping the slides and stuff and organizing the planning meetings, but everyone involved has great input on the content that we put together for each virtual meeting with these kids, and then the follow-up and interactions with them as well. I don't know if there's a question in the chat, but I'll keep going. So normally with each meeting, and the reason I put this first is just because if y'all don't know what this is, it's super cool, and this is how we get the kids engaged. As soon as we start our meetings, we do the clouds dance, and that's led by Jessica on our team. And if you all don't know, Cumulus, Stratus, Cirrus. Okay, so we get the kids up and dancing and gets them moving, gets their brains going, and we have fun to start it off. So, the way that we recruit the kids for this is we basically just each of our networks, we bug all of the third through fifth grade teachers that we know. And we say, here is this registration flyer. Please send this out to your parents. And we keep bugging them because that takes a long time to get parents to sign up. So there's a registration link. And in that, the parents have to select whether they agree or disagree with the media release form because we are recording the meetings and we utilize the kids' images and their drawings and things. So once we get a good set of registrants, parents signing up their kids, then I put together a toolkit and we ship this out to them before, like, try to get it to them a week before our first meeting so that they can start looking through it and playing with it. And we include items for them to do some fun hands-on activities with stickers and things. I'm sure you all recognize a lot of this stuff here. And something new that we did in 2025 was we introduced some Pedosphere activities. And this is because I was just kind of surfing on Amazon and found these little plastics garden sieve sets, and they were cheap. So we were able to get those and send them along with some other soil activity supplies. So I'll go through some of that and show you. So this is what a typical meeting would look like. We've got the kids calling in. Oftentimes there's parents, hanging out in the background and we can talk to them. And the first meeting, especially, we encourage the parents to kind of like join in the camera with us so that we can interact and answer any questions that they have before we're just kind of talking directly with their students. And we have a variety over the years now. We've increased the variety of situations. So a lot of it initially was just okay, individual kids at their homes. Sometimes there's siblings, right? And then there's some audio issues. Sometimes they go to other rooms or whatnot. But then we'll have maybe a couple kids in an after school program. And then this past spring, we had an entire big after school program. We've had other entire classrooms calling in. That's something that I personally didn't foresee happening. I thought we'd just, work with the kids one on one, but it's been neat to watch it grow and see that happen. So normally what I do is I make a map and so we can show the kids, hey, look at how spread out we are, and we've got people calling in from all these locations. And then what we do is we start with each meeting starts with a little, what I'll call a mini lesson. And so this is an example of Dr. C talking about um, uh, cloud types, and then we'll also get into sky color to start out. And then we ask them to look at the resources that we provide, and which includes, the sky window, and we talk about the color of the sky. And then we basically each week we introduce some concepts to them, and then we say, okay, in your kit, use this item and explore this during the week and record some observations, and then we'll share out next week. And then we kind of repeat, and then the following week we'll add in some new content and then, use some new items out of your toolkit. So, one of the first things we also ask them to do is to draw an all about me page so that we can get to know them better. And the kids really like doing this because they'll draw pictures of their family, their animals, and share, their favorite sports. And we'll do that also and share out, our personal details. And then I personally like to start getting into the cool animated, gifts and NASA resources that we can include and show the kids. So this is an example of an image that will show that, like, we'll show the cloud movement from the past few days from when we met. This one is an example from April 10th. And if y'all haven't not used this, NASA's GOES Viewer app is fantastic. I love it. I look at it for fun all the time because you can pull up this imagery, this animation, and then download it and save it. And so it's just super engaging to show the kids, okay, you were observing clouds. Now look at what was happening that the satellites were seeing in your area. And then Evangeline on our team usually leads the kid share out portion, and she calls upon the kids, or we generally just allow them to voluntarily, hit the hand up button on Zoom and volunteer to share. So they'll hold their work up to the camera and tell us about it. And if they're being shy, sometimes she'll, nudge them a little to share out if they haven't. And if they don't want to share, that's fine too. We've had kids who just, they're doing the activities, but they're just really shy. And so, if they don't want to talk, that's fine. But you start to see in these observations the real learning occurring, the understanding of the different types of clouds, the recording of the day and the time, and writing the names of the clouds and the sky color. So they're building their science notebook full of observations as they go along. And we talk about green up because it's spring in the northern hemisphere. And I have another cool animation I like to show them. So this one is one that engages them in green up and green down to really kind of think about what's happening with vegetation at different times of the year and think about where are they on the map based on the map of the member map that I showed them before. And then we kind of trade off. You can see we've got our names at the tops of the slides, right? So we have our little prompts. We know what we're going to do. So in this case, Jessica led the discussion about bud burst, tie a ribbon, or we provide pipe cleaners in their toolkit for them to tie around a branch for them to observe. And then we have them draw what's happening. So the same thing with their clouds. They divide their science notebook into 4 quadrants, put the day, and then they're drawing and they're seeing what's happening. They have a little magnifying glass. So here's some more student observations with bud burst. And some of them get even more detailed. They'll start adding in, air temperature, that kind of thing. And the tree height challenge is a super fun. I would definitely include that in this presentation because this always cracks me up every year. So at the week that we start talking about, we're sharing out bud burst. At the end of that meeting, I leave them with this challenge. Okay, for the next week, I want you all to think about this. How would you measure the height of a tall tree? I should have tall tree here. And the things that they come up with when they come back the next week to share is fantastic. They'll have drawings of, a really tall ladder and their friend climbing up the ladder and dropping down a measuring tape, or they're flying a drone up to the top of the tree with a measuring tape. It's just fantastic what they come up with. And so then we go through and show them, here's how you could actually measure, and that satellites measure tree height. And so engages them more in NASA monitoring. And Jody led the soils part this past spring, which was super fun. And we included in their kit this year the Scoop on Soils book. And they get to learn about the different types of soil, the grain sizes, sand, silt, and clay, and they're drawing their color. They do a smudge test. We've put together videos. I won't play them. You all can watch them if you want, but this is me trying to dig in the ground and dig some soil out and show them how to put it on a pan and dry it, and then take it and run it through the little sieve set that they got, and then also to put some into their vial, a plastic vial that I sent them or we send them, and add water and shake it up and let it settle out. So, the last final thing I want to do, because I want to leave time for this, is to just show real quickly. So each year we keep a photo album. We ask the parents to upload photos, or teachers in this case. This was an instructor who had an after-school group that joined us. And I make a short link so it's easy to find the photo album, and then people will just start to add in photos of their activities and videos and stuff. And you can see like in this case, this educator did some also more extension activities in addition to the ones that we introduced them to. So I think I'm running long, but yeah, that's I can drop this link in the chat if y'all want to explore. But each year, right, we have a photo album, and it's super cool to see all the results, especially the drawings that the kids make. I don't know if I was supposed to speed up there, Jen, but you can see here. Okay.
You're doing just fine, Sarah.
Yeah,
Okay.
doing great.
Okay. So let me put this link in the chat for you all so you can check it out then. I did have one final slide here at the end. Oh, hold on. And there's our website and then my contact information if you all would like. I know that during the NARM, Sherry and I had a long conversation about Kids Club, and I sent her the link to our Google Drive with all of our planning documents in there, which would be super helpful if someone wants to start up something similar. We could share that with others as well. Okay. Good? Too fast?
No, perfect.
Okay, there's the link to the photo album there.
Awesome.
I think I should ask our team members that are here, Dr. C and Jody, maybe chime in and what do they think of the Kids Club and how the impact on the kids?
Well, you did great, Sarah. Thought you
Thank
did a
you.
real good, comprehensive presentation. And yeah, I think the kids, it's really seems to be valuable. And in the last couple of years, we've had less kids messing around, so that's always good.
Yeah.
I'll chime in. I loved it. I love it so much that I'm thinking about doing it, right? To keep it going. This is a way to keep Globe going. And it was, just being with kids is great. Sometimes we miss that opportunity because we're working with teachers. So being with kids was great. And they were into it. They had questions. They were like, if the content presentation, which wasn't too long, Kevin or whoever's doing the content session, maybe 15 minutes went a long way, but they were engaged and listening and using the same vocabulary that was used throughout the week. So I just loved it. And their journals, like Sarah said, provided us with really good evidence that they were learning, that they were growing, that this was meaningful for them. So yeah, I can't say enough about it. I love the program.
Yeah, we've had repeat kids also, because it's third through fifth, so we've had kids want to come back. We even had a fifth grader say, "Oh, I'm in sixth grade next year. I can't join." We said, "Go ahead, you can come on in anyhow."
How much did the kits cost? Do you know how, like a an amount?
A lot of the materials we had for a long time in the stock room, like those little magnifying glasses and other things. It's hard to say. The sieve sets, I think they were three sets of them for, I don't know, like 12 or $13. So for this year, it was a bit more.
I
And
would
we were,
guess with shipping, probably $25.
Yeah,
yeah, maybe
I was gonna
something
say 30, so I think we're like
like
that's
that.
a good.
Yeah. They weren't too heavy, so
Right.
they weren't too expensive to ship. We're not planning to do it again right now. Fortunately, we're not doing it this spring. Uh, I'm not sure when we might do it again. It does seem to me that people might be willing to pay to do it. If somebody wanted to make a franchise, get start a whole company of after school NASA program. Well, I don't know if you can call it NASA at that point, but um, NASA adjacent.
Is,
A quick, sorry.
well, I was just gonna say, this reminds me of Jessica's the 21st century thing that she did for the after school programming.
Mm-hmm.
That notebook. And then, but this seems to be like a really nice, it was 6 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Um,
5 or 6 weeks, somewhere in there. Yep.
Yeah, because that's a really interesting concept because we have at our elementary school, kids could sign up for after school clubs, like after school activities, and this seems like something that would really fit with that too, like that educator did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been the cool part to see the entire classrooms joining in.
Yeah, we provided content for her for the short term
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I would send some stuff, but that educator had a budget to buy some of the materials for that larger group.
And I think though having Jessica and you and Sarah and like outside people is really important too. So um, that's
Yeah,
another
that's,
interesting piece.
I forgot to mention that we would typically at the end of the very like last meeting try to have a special guest speaker. Someone from NASA. In years past, we had Brian Campbell join us a few times and talk about trees and show the photon animated video. The kids like that. And last time we just had Jessica as our guest speaker and talk about her work with Globe and growing up and being a kid and her interests and then getting into NASA. So it's super cool. And then we send them at the end, the very end, as long as they've attended X number of, sessions. We send them an actual certificate we put together. I should have put a copy of that in the presentation, but it looks very fancy. It's a nice certificate, and then Dr. C hand signs it, and then I'll include a NASA sticker or something else. We put that in an envelope and send it to the kids.
Getting mail is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Svetlana, you had a question?
Oh, just a very small question, and I apologize if you already answered it. For some reason, last week in a different presentation, I got the impression that kids clubs were a thing, that there are is there such a thing as kids clubs like, Big Brother, Big Sister, like is it a franchised concept or was this just a one-off?
I don't know.
I think the YMCA has a lot of after school programs, and some of those are called kids clubs. The one in Toledo is a kids club. So that might be what you're thinking of, Svetlana. I'm not positive,
Okay.
but I think this would be great. I mean, I think the YMCA is always looking for content for these after school clubs, these groups. And it's the kids that are, can't leave school yet
Right.
because their parents can't pick them up. So,
Great.
yeah, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We hadn't thought about contacting the Y, Nico. We should look into that.
Yeah, I think the YMCA is maybe a really good
Hmm.
next step for us right now, or another step.
Like
I should say next.
boys and
Hmm.
girls clubs do a lot of the after school programming. And I
Hmm.
also, after school time educators get less science support in terms of their professional development than teachers. So I think that could
Hmm.
be really helpful for them to grow their knowledge of science in too, along with the students. I think it could have a really big impact.
I'm thinking if we took this to the undergraduate group a little bit. I mean, I know some of the undergraduates are not teachers. Some of them go into sciences or other places, but for the ones that are teachers, like the kids club that we had that we worked with this year, one of my students from Bowling Green, who was trained in Globe as an undergraduate, we had an undergraduate course, was the leader of her kids club. That her whole class joined us.
Oh,
So that was super cool to see her again. I hadn't seen her for years. And I think because there was an interest, she knew Globe, she did Globe. So it might be something else we think about is thinking about these students who have gone through undergraduate programs who are out there now, who are looking for ways to get their students connected. This could be a really good way.
mhm. Well, David Paget has a really great model where his students, his undergrad students who are doing service learning projects work with kids at younger grades as well. I've always thought that was super, super cool.
You all had me thinking that we could convert the slides that we have for each week into more just maybe like anonymized so that like our names are not so it's just standalone content that
Hmm.
other people could use. Svetlana be like a Sparks for Littles.
Yeah. Well, Sparks for Kids. Well, you have your
Sparks for
colleague that
Kids.
developed a kid's version of Sparks already, right? That's your
The Globe,
version.
the Globe for Students website, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Alicia, I
yeah.
love it.
Mhm.
Yeah, we could build on that too.
Little
Yeah.
Sparks. Oh, that's
Oh, I love
perfect.
that.
A sparklet.
Oh.
Can I ask a question? So the kids would do something and then by next week they have to do another thing. So these are
Mhm.
really tied together and
Right.
it's a 6 week process, right? So
Yeah, that
it's
we
not standalone.
yeah, obviously attendance is, we don't most of the kids don't attend every session. Some of them do. So, if they miss something, that's fine. We just ask them to share what they do have. So, we try to be very flexible with it.
Lots of kids and cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? In
Well,
cars?
they're going from here or there. They're
Driving.
on a
Oh,
device in their car and in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
oh.
And sometimes they would not have their journal because they're in
Mm,
transit or oh, I forgot my journal. I'm at my mom's
right.
classroom. She's a teacher, so it's after school. But they all had something to
Oh.
say, and that was what was great. So that's when Sarah said being flexible. I thought that was really important because they didn't all have a journal to open up necessarily, but they all did something. I mean, it was really obvious that they were doing it. It's just that they didn't always have a documentation of it. Most of them did,
Mm-hmm.
but a couple each meeting would be without.
Mm-hmm. Kristen asked how many kids basically. Our registration is always like 50 to 60, sometimes more parents will sign up their kids. And then by the time, when I'm reaching out through email, okay, are you really, getting into this? And it's like 20, 25.
25, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
something
a
like
big
that.
number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When we have the classrooms, I think that added to the number to some degree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that did.
So,
Mm-hmm.
So you would have them register and it's all free.
It is.
And then, so then it would be sending the kits to kids that aren't going to show up.
Well,
well,
that's why, yeah, you really have to keep emailing the parents and saying, hey, checking in with them.
Sarah would check back with them. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was a really good idea because then we didn't send out a lot extra stuff.
Right. Right. And you can tell the parents who are super excited to have their kid enrolled in it, And the NASA uh, relation goes a long way with the parents. I want my kid in a NASA after school program.
Mhm.
How did we
Uh,
promote this?
Mhm.
So basically, we relied on our teachers that are in our existing network, and we just asked the teachers to send it out to parents because obviously we don't have contact information for parents of third through fifth graders, but the teachers do. So we only get the contact information for the parents when they register.
Sarah, one of the ideas I was tossing around in my head, if I were to do this, is that Jane Goodall, who I love and adore, she has the Roots and Shoots program, and which is kind of kids clubs,
Mm.
yeah, in some essence, and they're called to do something, right? And they can decide what they do. But I'm thinking collapsing that idea on top of this might be
Ooh.
really, really cool. So do you feel like there's 6 weeks that we did? Don't you think it could go 8 to 10 weeks? Would we still have their attention? Is six the right number, or could we stretch it a little bit? What are your, because I thought if you got them to do a student research project, which I think would be the next step, use some of the tools, do a
Right.
project, that would be cool. And then also think of something you can do in your community to improve the, whatever
Right.
they're looking at. So I'm
You
wondering
know,
if it could be stretched further, or do you think that we'd lose them?
well, you got me thinking maybe what this should be is a Google site. And so the content is all there. And if they want to focus on one piece of it, they could. They could skip around. If an educator or a leader wants to walk them through, each one, they could do that, but we could build it. I could see it. I could build a Google site that would have all the content on there ready to go.
Yeah, that'd
And
be
you're
cool.
right, and tie it and add extension steps to where the kids who are really into it could
Right.
follow a poster template and put their observations in, learn how to make a simple graph or draw a graph and put it in to a poster template.
Yeah, I wonder if just a little bit older would facilitate
That'd be
that.
better.
The
Right.
Hmm.
third graders are probably too young.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Fourth graders maybe, fifth graders definitely good. Six, fifth, sixth maybe be
Okay.
better target.
Hmm.
Right.
and they
That
probably
would
need
be.
more support at the younger grades, like in terms of doing a project. But it could be, part two, right? For
Right.
those
Right.
Part
sixth
one is,
graders or
yeah.
seventh graders.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight, and we will see you next time.